Hi friends, so for our read alouds today, we are going to read a fractured version of The Princess and the Pea that I read on Monday. So today we are going to read The Princess and the Pizza. And this story is retold by Mary Jane and Herm Och. And thank you to Scholastic for giving us permission to read this story. So while we're reading, I want you to think about how the queen in this story is different than the queen in the original fairy tale. I want you to think about her character traits and think about what is different about her in this story. Okay, here we go. The Princess and the Pizza. Princess Paulina needed a job. Her father had given up his throne to become a woodcarver and moved them to a humble shack in a neighboring kingdom. Since the king was still learning, his carvings didn't sell, and Paulina's garden barely kept enough on the table. Paula missed princessing. She missed walking the peacock in the royal garden, surveying the kingdom from the castle tower, and doing the princess wave in royal processions. Paulina tried walking a stray chicken around her shack, but it only pecked at her bare toes. Surveying the kingdom from the shack's leaky roof made even more holes. She tried princess waving to the townspeople from her father's cart, but nobody bothered to wave back. They just thought she was swatting at flies. One day, a page, who's someone who works at a castle, rode past the shack, announcing that Queen Zelda of Blom was seeking a true princess to become the bride of her son, Prince Drupert. "This is my chance to get back to princessing," Paulina cried. She rummaged through her trunk of ex-princess stuff, brushed the wood shavings from her best ball gown, and blew away the bits of sawdust that clung to her diamond tiara. Then she tucked a piece of garlic into her bodice for good luck, snipped some fragrant herbs to cover up the garlic smell, and headed for the castle. Paulina didn't expect much competition. There wasn't another princess for hundreds of miles. But when she got to Blom Castle, Paulina found she was only one of 12 princesses hoping to become the royal bride. When she looked into her assigned room, Paulina saw her bed piled with 16 mattresses. Oh, for Pete's sake! The old princess and the pea trick. That's so Once Upon a Time. Naturally, Paulina didn't sleep all night because she felt the lumpy pea through the mattresses, just like in the original story. When the 12 princesses gathered in the throne room the next morning, the 7 who looked bright-eyed were sent home. Why do you think they got sent home? Well, if they were bright-eyed, that means they slept really well. And if they slept really well, that means that they didn't feel the pea under all of their mattresses. Now only Paulina and 4 other sleepy princesses remained. First, they were made to write essays entitled, "Why I Want to Have the Gracious and Exquisitely Beautiful Queen Zelda for My Mother-in-Law." Prince Drupert and Queen Zelda finally appeared on the balcony. Queen Zelda did all the talking. "Congratulations, ladies! You have written some lovely essays which I will keep in my scrapbook, and you have all passed the mattress test. But to make absolutely sure you are of royal blood, there is a second test. Only a true princess can wear these glass slippers." The glass slippers. What is that fairy tale? That's from Cinderella. "For Pete's sake, you never heard of slippers?" Paulina asked. Queen Zelda gave Paulina a sharp look. "Nobody said you had to hike in them. Just try them on." After the royal page made his way around the room with the slippers, 2 big-footed princesses were sent home. Now only Paulina and 2 others remained. One was followed around by 7 strange little men. What fairy tale is that from? daughter of my 7, Snow White. And the other had such a long braid dragging behind her, Paulina kept tripping over it. In what fairy tale does the main character have really long hair? Rapunzel. This story has lots of fairy tales in it. For Pete's sake, you never heard of scissors? Paulina cried. Queen Zelda glared at Paulina. You all have passed the second princess test. Your final task is to cook a feast that proves you worthy of being my dear Drupert's wife. This sent up a wail among the princesses, especially Paulina. For Pete's sake, you have no royal chef? Silence, said the queen. The table holds the makings for 3 fine feasts. Choose well, for the winner will become my dear Drupert's bride. As Paulina started for the table, the long-haired princess tripped her, then loaded up with food. By the time Paulina got there, the 7 strange little men had run off with everything but some flour, yeast, water, 3 overripe tomatoes, and a hunk of stale cheese. Hey, that's not fair. Queen Zelda, will you help me? No, said the queen, because you have a big mouth. Are you thinking about how the queen in this story is different? So let's think of some different things that Princess Paulina could make with these ingredients. She has some flour, yeast, water, 3 tomatoes, and cheese. What could she make? Yeast is something that helps bread rise. I don't know. Let's see what she decides to try. A servant escorted Paulina to her room and locked the door. Hey! How can I cook without a bowl or spoons or pots? There was no reply. Paulina tried to make bread, kneading the flour, water, and yeast together, but it only stuck to the tray in a flattened mess. She squished the tomatoes over the dough to brighten it up. It looked awful. She sprinkled cheese gratings over the top. It was still a mess, and Paulina was exhausted. For Pete's sake, where's your fairy godmother when you need her? I'm going to take a nap. She reached under the pile of mattresses, pulled out the offending pea, and climbed into bed. She hadn't been sleeping long when there was a knock at the door. Only 20 minutes left, called Queen Zelda. I don't smell anything cooking. I'm not cooking, said Paulina. I'm napping. Then I'm going home. You're not going anywhere, said the queen. The losers will be beheaded. Paulina sat bolt upright. Beheaded? You didn't tell us that. I forgot, said the queen. Is the queen very kind? She's a little scary. Can't I have a second chance? How about I try to spin straw into gold? Does anyone know what that fairy tale is? Spinning straw into gold? Or maybe I could guess a weird little man's name? No second chances, declared the queen. But that's not fair, Paulina cried. Who needs to be fair? I'm the queen. Paulina leaped out of bed and ran to the window, but it was an unbelievably long drop to the ground. The meal was her only hope. She rushed the tray over to the fireplace, stirred the few remaining hot coals, then crushed her garlic and sprinkled it over the mess for good luck. Finally, Paulina tossed on the herbs to cover up the garlic smell. Remember, she had that garlic in her dress for good luck. It's starting to look like pizza. Paulina paced back and forth, planning her escape. Perhaps she could make a deal with the long-haired princess to climb down the braid. She didn't notice that the goopy dough had browned into a crust, the tomatoes were bubbling, the hard bits of cheese had melted, and the fragrance of garlic and herbs filled the room. A page opened the door. "Time's up." Paulina took a deep breath and carried her tray into the great dining room. How do you think Paulina is feeling right now? What are some clues that help you know how Paulina feels? The other princesses had made lovely feasts, especially the one who had the 7 little strange men to help her. Prince Drupert went right to Paulina's tray. "It's not pretty, but it smells scrumptious." He helped himself to an unusually generous piece. "What do you call this dish?" Paulina shrugged. "I don't know." "It can't be an official entry in the contest if it doesn't have a name," said the queen. "Oh, for Pete's sake," Paulina muttered. "What's that?" snapped the queen. "Pete's what?" Remembering the beheading threat, Paulina frantically tried to think of a name. "It's Pete's, pizza?" The queen took a big bite. "Odd name, but it's tasty. The winner is Paulina's pizza." "You mean I won't be beheaded?" "I was only kidding about the beheading," said the queen. "Then I was only kidding about wanting to marry Prince Drupert. Who needs him? I have other plans." What do you think Paulina's other plans might be? "Will you leave your recipe?" asked the queen. "No way," said Paulina. "It's just become a family secret." She headed for the door. "I liked you best," whined the queen, following close behind. "Oh, for Pete's sake," muttered Paulina as she stomped across the drawbridge. Princess Paulina's Pizza Palace opened a few weeks later. It featured unusual carved furniture and 50 kinds of pizza. Where do you think the carved furniture came from? Her dad, right. Every Thursday on the royal chef's night off, Queen Zelda and Prince Drupert come to Paulina's for popcorn pineapple pizza. They often stayed to play cards with Paulina's father. So, what did Princess Paulina decide to do instead of marrying Prince Drupert? She decided to open her own business. She has her own pizza restaurant now. From then on, whenever Paulina drove her pizza delivery cart through town doing the princess wave, everybody waved back and ran after her, asking about the day's specials. Life was good. Paulina was grateful not to have Queen Zelda for a mother-in-law, but she's still worried about one little thing. She worried about getting Queen Zelda as her stepmother. Oh my goodness. The end. So that is a story all about how pizza came to be. So, how was the queen in this story different from the queen in the original story? She was very rude, wasn't she? So, I want you to think about all of the different tests that Paulina had to take to prove that she was a real princess. What if you were the queen and you had to think of a test? What kind of test would you come up with to help prove that Paulina was a real princess? I can't wait to see what you think. Have a great day, friends.